So you're interested in palette knife painting. That's so exciting. Palette knife painting is a really unique art form that not many people do. And so whenever someone sees palette knife painting, it really draws them in. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about palette knife painting. So in this video, we're gonna go over two things in particular. Number one, what specifically is palette knife painting? And then number two, why do people even choose to do palette knife painting? So first of all, what is palette knife painting? Well, it's pretty simple. It's painting with a palette knife. This right here is a palette knife, and a lot of times artists will the purpose of a palette knife is actually just to mix paint. So here we go. So this is a paper palette, but as you can see right here, this is like a palette on like the sheet of paper, but people will take paint and then they'll actually mix the paint on the palette and they'll spread it out that way. That's the primary purpose of a palette knife, is just to mix and spread paint and kind of divide it on your palette. However, some people will actually use a palette knife in order to add little touches to their painting. For example, the great and amazing Bob Ross loved his palette knife. He would often use palette to create the snowy peaks on mountaintops. I remember seeing that as a kid and thinking, whoa, that's like such a cool technique, right? But there's a unique thing that you can do with a palette knife. You can actually create an entire painting using just a palette knife. And so palette knife painting is where you create a picture or a painting 100% with just the palette knife. However, there are many people out there who will create most of the painting with the palette knife, but then they'll go back in with a brush and do some light details and some touch-ups here and there because they really just wanted to draw out a little more detail than the palette knife can give you. Both camps are perfectly fine. For me personally, I love painting just exclusively with the palette knife, but if you want to add in some brush work, you absolutely can. It doesn't exclude you from the palette knife group, you know? There's lots of people who do that. And so again, palette knife painting is people who create a work of art using primarily a palette knife. Now, I want to give you some examples of palette knife painters that I personally love. I follow these guys on social media. I'm sure there's lots of like masters who are in museums and stuff, but personally I love to learn from people who are still alive, not throwing shade at the people who have passed on. Just, I love seeing the current works, right? So I'm going to give you 4 people that I personally follow and what we can kind of learn from them, just to kind of give us a really well-rounded understanding of the variety of palette knife painting. So first of all, the first person is Georgia Heart Studios. She is an amazing palette knife painter who does mostly landscapes, and one thing that stands out with their paintings is how smooth a lot of the paintings are. You almost think that they used a brush during a lot of their paintings, but they leave these really sharp ridges and edges in the skies and in the landscape, showing like, hey, this was done with a palette knife. It wasn't done with brushes. And so I love their paintings. Another person I follow is Lisa Ellie. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but she also mostly does landscapes, and it's a bit more of a messier style, and she includes lots of flowers and sometimes ocean scenes as well. And I just love the intricacies of her palette knife work. Then there's another really cool artist called Andrew it's right there, you can see it. This person primarily does like pop art, so popular characters that you would see either in movies or animated shows, or just like from culture. And so I love the messy style. Like, even though it's super messy, you can still tell exactly what that character was. And I just love the variety and the breadth of his work. And then the last person who actually inspired me when I was scrolling, I think through Instagram or some other social media platform, was a guy by the name of Mike Fansu. This is a guy that I actually have had several little conversations with, would message him when he was a much smaller creator, and then he would message me back with like little tips and answer my questions, and I really appreciated it. I loved him and his wife. They also do, both of them do palette knife paintings. He does it primarily from a helicopter and takes pictures of cities and then paints that in a palette knife, with a palette knife. And I just love that. I just thought it was so cool, so unique. I had to try all of that for myself. Now, one thing I want you to notice from all of these different creators is that they all have a different style. No two styles are identical. No two styles are exactly alike. There are things that I love from one style that I don't love from another style, or things that speak to me that might not speak to me from one of the other styles. So they all have different styles. Another thing I love about the palette knife painting community is that there's all sorts of subject matter that you can do. So you might notice one person just does landscapes, another person does landscapes and flowers, another person does pop art figures, and then another person does cityscapes, specifically from the view, the three-dimensional view of a helicopter over the city. And I just love that. All that to say is that there is room for you if you want to dive in and you're worried, oh, well, I don't want to do what someone else is already doing, or I don't want to feel like I'm stealing something or stepping on toes. No, not at all. Just go ahead and jump in. If you are drawn to this style, if you think that it's cool and it's interesting, go ahead and dive in. You're not copying anyone. You're not copyright infringing. No, just go ahead and jump in. There's no new thing under the sun. Everyone's painted everything before, but no one's painted in your style. Also, they all choose to focus on a different aspect of the artwork. So some people focus on more saturated art. They really love to just use the color right out of the tube. Other people, like Mike, he'll mute down the color so that it has a much more realistic look to everything. Regardless if you go super saturated or super realistic, there's room for you in the palette knife painting world. Let me just show you a little bit of my work real quick as we're talking about and comparing different palette knife stuff. I'm a Midwest artist here in the Kansas City location, and I love doing palette knife paintings of my city. It just, I love the architecture of my city. I love how it continues to grow and evolve. And I do palette knife paintings of the downtown area. I've done really large palette knife paintings, about 6 feet by 3 feet of our downtown space. And this particular one took me probably about 6, maybe 7 weeks to do. Like, it was a heavy girl. Like, when I finally lifted her off the wall, like, I had just caked on so much paint on this particular piece. I do other pieces as well of our Main Street and of the art museum downtown and of little towns like Parkville, Missouri. It's just so much fun doing palette knife paintings of my city. I love the texture. I love all of it. And so this is kind of my style. I do a little bit of a realistic style, but I also really like the saturated colors as well. And then I just have fun with the sky. So that's a little bit about me. This brings me to the second question for today's video, and that is why? Why do people choose to paint with a palette knife over a traditional brush? So again, most paintings are created using brushes, a variety of different brushes and techniques, whereas palette knife painters, we primarily use a palette knife. So why would some people choose to do palette knife painting over traditional brush paintings? And there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, it is unique. For every 5,000 to 10,000 traditional painters out there, there's probably only going to be one palette knife painter. So when your artwork is hanging up among all these other types of artwork, yours is probably going to be the only one with texture. That's what I love about palette knife painting. I love the texture of it. I love that you can go up and you can touch and you can feel the texture of every single ridge that you do with the palette knife. It just brings me so much joy. Another reason I love palette knife painting and why a lot of other people choose it is because it forces you not to focus on the details. I'm a traditional artist who, like I do oil paintings, watercolor, charcoal, pen work, and I can get really detailed with the artwork. I can get really hyper focused on the tiniest little thing. But when I'm painting with a palette knife, it forces me to let go of the details. It forces me to lean more into the impression of the artwork instead of trying to create these hyper-realistic works of art. And so that for me has been really liberating in not trying to, and really being limited in how I create the artwork. And so that's something that jumps out to me. Another reason is you can do a palette knife painting in as little as an hour, or yes, it can take up to 6 weeks, depending on how big of a canvas. This particular painting of the Kauffman Center here in Kansas City, this painting took me about 2 hours to do. This is a little 10 by 10 frame, and this is the Performing Arts Center sitting atop of our downtown in Kansas City, 2 clamshells where they have these huge like artistic spaces where symphonies perform and ballets and other plays, things of that nature. And so I did this with a palette knife, and I used primarily, I think I only used 3 colors for this particular painting, and I just love the limiting factor. I could do it really quick, sit down in one session, create this work of art, hang it on my wall, and just appreciate it. And I could sell prints of it or the original if I choose to. So that's something else that I love about palette knife painting. It could take you a really long time if you want, or you can do it in a single sitting. Finally, it's a really quick cleanup process. I love that if I have a ton of paint on my palette knife and I'm ready to clean up, I just get a paper towel, wipe it clean, and I'm done. With a traditional brush, you'll either need to do one of 2 things. One, you'll need to use some turpentine, which has some pretty nasty fumes. So if you're painting in an indoor space, it's not really that ideal. You're gonna really wanna go outside to clean it, and it can be a whole process. And then you're going to want to let that dry in a really well-ventilated space, because those fumes can be harmful for your body. Or if you have a sink nearby, you can go to a sink, get some soap, pour the soap on your brush, and then kind of wash out the oil with the soap. You can't wash it out just with water because oil and water don't mix well together. It doesn't help get it off, but the soap does. It took me, I kid you not, about 2 years to realize that you could just use soap in a sink. But you might not be in a place where you have easy access to a sink. And so that can be one of the downsides and one of the upsides of using a palette knife. So that's another reason why I love palette knife painting. This is going to be a series of videos. I'm about to work on a commission over here. Let me see if I can just kind of tilt the camera. So this is a commission of a downtown painting of Kansas City that I'm getting ready to do. And I thought, you know what, like, why don't I just take some time, document this process, and someone else out there could potentially learn or be inspired or just enjoy the journey as I'm going through this process of creating this particular palette knife painting. And so if you want to learn more about that process, be inspired, I'm going to talk about supplies, what you need, and I'm going to walk through the process for this particular palette knife painting. Go ahead and click that subscribe button, and please make sure to give this video a like. It helps more budding artists to learn about palette knife painting and just be inspired as well. So thank you so much for that in advance. I'm thinking this is going to be about 6 videos. We'll see what happens. But if you have any questions as we're going on this journey together, I'd really want to encourage you to leave a comment down below, and I'll do my very best to answer those questions or address those comments in the videos that are coming. I'm hoping to do one of these a week, so thank us again so much for subscribing and liking the video. Don't really know what else to say after this, so thank you so much.